Struggling to put away the Bills last night, but in the end, putting away the Bills last night.
Yeah, the Bills have played some games that are surprising. The game against Minnesota obviously was an extremely surprising game. They've got the ability to do that. And it's a Monday night game. It's in Buffalo. It's the first one for a long time. There's a lot of motion behind it.
Retiring Thurman Thomas's number at half.
Yeah, and even though the Patriots, you can get into that mindset of maybe this game is going to be a little bit easier than we expected, and you can fall into that trap, although they do a good job of that. And at the end of the day, they found a way to win. And the idea that Cordero Patterson ran the ball just 3 times less than Saquon Barkley's average, to me, is
Coach can't go over that.
When he's on a corner, don't budge him.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where they needed to run the ball. They had to find a way to run the ball. I thought it was actually a great idea. I like the idea of him working some more in the backfield, a way to get an explosive player, some touches. I thought that was a creative approach. They're not all going to be pretty. They're not all going to be easy, but it's another great example of they work James White. They find a role for Cordero Patterson. Gronk didn't have a big day, but at the end of the day, they took what was there. They just kept
They found a way to win. They found a way to win even if it was ugly, and the offense didn't score 38 points, or the team didn't score 38 points for the first time in this winning streak. You saw how much Sony Michel means to this team. That's the part that would concern me for the Pats, that we had to go to Cordero Patterson to have some semblance of a rushing attack because our running back wasn't there, and it's not like we can say, but our running back, when he comes back, will be healthy the rest of the year. Not when he had knee issues in college. He had knee issues before the year started, and he's dealing with a knee issue now. That's the concerning part for me. But because they're the Patriots, the biggest moments of the game, it's 9-6. New England. Kyle Van Noy gets a strip sack. It's 12-6, New England. The Bills have a 3rd and 3 at midfield, right at the start of the fourth quarter. Pats get off the field, and how do they respond to that? 10-play, 85-yard drive with a couple huge 3rd down conversions to really salt the game away. Because against this Buffalo offense, 2 scores is 10 scores. The game's over. That pick 6 was just bonus if you laid the 14 points. Like the Patriots found a way to win, but if I'm a Pats fan, there were some things that were concerning to me, most notably the lack of a rushing attack without Sony Michel that I think need to be addressed.
Yeah, the Sony Michel, you could tell they need more productivity from a running back. And that's how they changed this team this year. Because every year Bill is trying to look at this team, how it's going to evolve. We know Edelman coming off the suspension, what he was going to provide. Gronk does not look like he's running the same way that he's run in years past. So they have Josh Gordon as a potential deep threat. We know what Hogan gives the offense, but from a running standpoint, Sony Michel was the only thing that's been really special. James White has not been a featured running back since 8th grade. I don't know if there's ever been a running back in the history of the NFL that hadn't been featured. We coached him in high school. He had Giovanni Bernard and other guys in the backfield with him. He went to Wisconsin. He was not featured there. And in New England, he is the perfect New England player. So when they move Cordero to tailback, to me, I know there's a problem because it's not as if they have a surplus of wide receivers. So it's something I must watch. I believe his knee is going to be problematic as they go on. And Gronk's inability out last week because of a back. I don't see the burst in him. You don't see him running down the field. That's something I want to watch as New England goes into the month of November.
If we weren't talking about the Patriots, I'd actually be a little worried. I'd be like, oh, that sounds like they've got issues, and sounds like they've got some things they got to deal with. But
no, they have issues, but they have ability to be able to cover them up. I'm not going to look at this game and be like, man, there's some well-oiled machine. You could see where they're having problems. Tom, last night, as far as guys getting open, getting space, he had to get rid of the football a bunch of times against a Buffalo defense that has not had a consistent pass rush. So as we go throughout the season, he's missing his right tackle. Let's just watch. Let's just watch and see how they go about, because each week they'll try to evolve into something. What we've seen the last 4 weeks, they were not last night against Buffalo, Coach.
But I love Cordero Patterson in the backfield. I love this move because I think it's one of those things where it can evolve into a package. And that's usually what happens in New England is you try something as a solution to a problem. And then you say, okay, well, this actually has some merit as a package moving forward. How can we develop it? And that's a lot of times how ideas get off the ground. Is it starts out of necessity, something hits, so there's a few good things there. Now you bring him in as a wide receiver later on, and you can move him back into the backfield, maybe run some two-back type plays. I don't know where they're going with it, but I think you're going to see some more of it, and it gives them some interesting flexibility.
Tell me if I'm right here, though. You like it as an element, not if they were to have to rely on him as their main running back.
No, I think this week is one where they had to rely on him, or they felt like they could get some plays out of it. But there were enough good things that I could see this as being a package that they carry forward, that teams have to prepare for, just like you have to prepare for James White in the backfield. Different than Sony Michel, different from Cordarrelle Patterson.
Sure, like you can like what the Ravens are doing with Lamar Jackson in moments, but would feel very differently if Lamar right now had to be their quarterback. I know that's not exactly apples to apples, but it feels like that's what you're saying, which speaks to the point that we all agree that they need Sony Michel back. This team, what changed to me as far as their struggles early in the year and what they did over this 5-game winning streak up until really Sony Michel got hurt, which is around the time the offense stopped clicking on all cylinders, was they had a consistent rushing attack between the tackles. There's a reason why they drafted him in the first round. I thought they drafted the second best Georgia running back in the first round. I thought Nick Chubb was better. Patriots, almost as always, know better than I do. They took a player that they could use. I do think they need him, even if Cordarrelle Patterson can be used in spot duty or in a specialty package.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with Coach here, because he had one run of 22 yards. All right, so after that, he had 9 runs for 16 yards. To me, the skill set, he is great in space, but the skill set from a wide receiver compared to the skill set of a tailback, I don't believe those running skills are transferable. So, yes, he did get a burst around the outside. They gave up the edge. He had 22 yards. But on the rest of them, he seemed to struggle. And most wide receivers that I know, they do not play tailback well. So I want to be able to see how that's going to evolve, because tailbacks, you can see the hole and the vision in front of you. Wide receivers, we're used to catching the football and the defense being back this way. So most of the time, the skill sets aren't transferable. Let's see what Bill Belichick, the greatest coach ever, let's see what how he grows his role as a tailback.
Yeah, and I completely understand what you're saying. I just think that Cordarrelle hasn't really found a role there as a wide receiver, and he hasn't really found a role there in the league as a consistent wide receiver. To me, this is an attempt to see if they can get a few more plays out of him. I don't think it's going to be one of those things where he's going to be a great running back. It's more get him some reps, see what works, what doesn't work. How do we get this guy who we know is talented?
Yes.
Just some touches.
Also, Cordarrelle, he was in Minnesota. They drafted him as a first-round pick. I know the wide receiver coaches. It's always been an issue with him as far as the information off the board into his brain and then what he's going to do on the field. So if Bill Belichick is able to get that out of him, that's going to be, the Vikings couldn't, the Raiders couldn't. Let's see if the Pats can get more out of him than they could.
It sounded familiar. Sorry.
What?
Something taken from the ether and letting it seep in and making it work itself out.
Yeah, manifest stuff in your life as being real.
It was a joke. Gosh, Coach, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Appreciate it.
When she said the 3, it was fun.
That thing came off the board and went right in my head. It's out there.
Jenna laughed to herself, wanted America to know what she was laughing at. America still don't know.
Hilarious.
How
You
did
got
the
to
show
see it on the
recover?
board.
Break.
How
Well,
does
the
our show
Cavs haven't
recover?
recovered from losing the
No,
Bron.
how do we recover from Jenna?
We're going to reemerge in the next segment, okay? We're going to